Dear friend who lives in the world beside mine, I am writing as if our two desks share one lamp. I want to tell you what it feels like to live, where thoughts do not hide, but rise as gentle captions above our heads. I will not explain rules as a manual because you know me. I would rather show you a day the way I lived it. This morning I left my small flat with tea on my tongue and a list in my head, and both tasted honest. On the stairwell my neighbour passed and her caption floated like steam, saying I am late and I am hopeful anyway. We smiled because the caption made the truth light and we both reached the door at the same time without the old dance of guessing. The street was bright with thought strips, thin lines of words skimming like kites over the crowd. A boy read his own line and slowed down, and the line said breathe then choose, and he did. Our city is quieter than you might expect. Not because we think less, but because we rush less. When a stranger bumps a shoulder, the first thing we scan is not the face, but the little sentence above it. If the sentence says, I am scared of losing my job, the anger melts before it gathers. We still have pride and prickles, but captions make us see the small animal under the coat. Children learn a habit called mindful drafting, which means they try a first thought, soften it, and then let it rise. Teachers do not shout as much because they can read, oh no, I made it worse, and they stop and start again with care. At noon, I walked to work and a vendor offered plums, and his caption said, I want you to taste summer, and I bought 2. We still bargain, yet bargaining is now a game of honest signals, which makes it oddly warm. A boss cannot promise one thing while planning another without the room blushing for them. Interviews feel like 2 lanterns set on the same table. The best advice I ever got for a job was let your caption lead and let your mouth follow. When I did that, I said less but meant more, and the offer came with trust sewn into it. You might wonder about privacy, and I do as well every day. We have places called veil rooms, where captions do not rise, and quiet is allowed to keep its shape. Hospitals have veil corridors for grief and fear, and the nurses guard that hush like it is water. Lovers keep small veil hours, not because they want to hide, but because they want one another to rest without self-narration for a while. My first open date felt like standing in 2 mirrors, one of skin and one of words. He said, you look calm, and his caption said, I hope she cannot hear my heart. I laughed, and my caption betrayed me with please like me as I am, which turned out to be exactly right. Honesty here is not always pretty, yet it is often kindly shaped by practice. We are taught to read with mercy, and that law lives deeper than the printed laws. Mercy does not excuse harm, but it slows the hand that would punish a stumble. We still have crime, which may surprise you, and it wears a new face. A thief once learned to project borrowed lines and sold fake confessions to hide a real plan. That trick hurt our trust, and the city held open hearings where everyone spoke and everyone showed their lines. We made a rule after that, not a hard metal rule, but a soft daily one, which is never take a line for more than a moment without the person to hold it. My mother says the old world likes statements, and our world prefers sentences that get edited by the air. She means we treat the first thought as a draft, and we praise the second thought that listens before it lands. You asked once how faith looks when captions stand around a prayer like candles. A friend of mine sings at a small meeting and her line during the song says, let me mean this, and people weep, not because she is perfect, but because her intent is visible. Hypocrisy dies of thirst here, yet shame grows wild if we do not tend it. We try to weed shame with the practice I told you, which is merciful reading. The practice says read a line as if it belongs to someone you wish to keep. I fail at that some mornings, and my line admits it, and a neighbor saves me with a nod that says try again. You would like our comedy nights. Comedians glance at the crowd and riff on the drifting sentences, which sounds cruel, but the craft is to make the joke rest on yourself first. Imagine a performer pointing to their own line which shouts, I forgot the punchline, and the room lifts them with a roar of joy. Artists make galleries where your thought becomes part of the piece when you stand still long enough. Poets print books with blank pages that only grow ink when you read them aloud in your head, and yes, we buy them anyway. There is a quiet grief that comes with all this light. Some people never grow a caption at all, and we call them blank bearers, which is both kind and salty. A blank bearer once played the violin under our subway, and I swear the hush above his head felt like a night sky in a pocket. People feared him at first, then learned to hear him, and now his shows sell out, but he still walks home alone sometimes. I walked beside him once and asked if silence is heavy, and he smiled and shrugged, and I tried not to read that shrug like a line. I tell you this because we are still learning how to love each shape of mind. My work today was to help settle a small dispute in a market over a crate of oranges. One seller thought the other had spoken badly of her, and the lines flickered with old hurt. I asked each to speak while we watched the air, and the air did what it does best, which is show the wish to be safe under the wish to be right. They split the crate and made a plan to swap vendors for a week so each could meet the other's customers. The world likes to sponsor experiments when pride has trapped two people in a loop. In the afternoon, my own caption failed for a breath, which always feels like stepping off the curb at night. A civic helper came with a small device that creates a gentle veil and asked me to take 3 slow breaths. It turns out I had been thinking too fast and my line tripped over itself, which happens when feelings sprint. We laughed, and my line returned with "I am tired and grateful," and the helper nodded, because those are honest twins. I still think about the first year our world changed. Back then, people wore hats with brims that tried to hide the words, and streets had sudden storms of breakups and apologies. The pain was wild, and the kindness was clumsy. Over time, we got good at pausing, and the pausing taught us to be quick where it matters and slow where it saves. You might ask whether lying died, and I would say it learned to speak sideways. We learned to listen for the sideways step and to ask simple questions like, "What do you need?" and "How can I help?" The greatest skill now is to make a thought safe for others to stand under. My brother jokes that a good apology is now a sport with rules and medals. His best one begins with "I hurt you" and ends with "Here is my plan to stop," and the line above him carries both like 2 hands. Dating has smaller jealousies but deeper heart work. A partner does not wonder what you felt last night. They watch the sentence and ask about the part that did not rise. We keep little pockets of dark where we rest from being legible, not to hide ugly things, but to let wonder grow without pressure to explain. Some people set dawn hours with no captions and return to daylight with steadier lines. We cook with more spices and quarrel over them like any neighbors. We buy too many books, then admit the reason above our heads, which is the smell of paper makes me brave. I met a woman on the bus who repairs old signage, and her caption said, "I love letters like they are pets." We talked about how captions made writing a moving part of the body. She told me that craft changed more lives than any invention, because now people learn to be authors of the air. There are small crimes you would recognize and one you might not. A friend was hurt by a lover who used quick little negations in speech, while the caption said another thing, and the cognitive split made her dizzy. She left and wrote a short handbook on how to spot that pattern, and our youth groups now read it together. We treat safety as a community craft, not a private talent, and we teach it by stories more than commands. When a leader here speaks, people watch the line more than the podium. Campaigns are shorter and promises are fewer, and what remains is accountable or it disappears. I am not saying we are wiser, only that we are more visible, which is its own school. Sometimes I miss the mystery you live with, and I wonder if mystery is a vitamin our bodies still need. Then I remember that we have mystery too, only we schedule it and guard it, and share it by invitation. My aunt keeps a veil garden where thought does not rise, and her guests leave with eyes that have rested. She says rest is when you are not being read, and I understand her more with every year. People ask me what I think of your world, where minds wear coats thick enough to cross winters unseen. I say I admire your skill at timing, and I envy your surprises. You get to choose when a kindness leaves your mouth, and that choice gives the gift a special shine. Our gifts are bright because they are honest, and yours are bright because they are chosen, and both light the room in different ways. Some argue that captions made us moral, and I do not agree, because light does not fix what it shows. Light invites repair and asks for practice, and practice still belongs to us. When a child first sees the line above their head, they reach for it like a balloon. We teach them to hold it lightly and let it go when it is unkind. We teach them to build better sentences by placing care before cleverness. We teach them that the best truth is not the one that cuts the fastest, but the one that heals and lasts. Commerce changed in funny ways. We now shop with attention to the little phrase the vendor cannot hide, and we pay more for people whose line says, "I want you to get the right thing." Reviews include memory of captions, which made fraud hard to scale and service easier to trust. We still get scammed now and then, mostly by our own wishes running ahead of our eyes. Weddings here are small and somehow more adult. Vows are spoken with the caption already showing the work behind them, and guests cheer for the work, not the gold. Friends stand around the couple and let lines rise that promise food and childcare and time, and then they follow through. I love our funerals because sorrow has less hiding to do. People say I loved you and I was afraid to show it, and then they show it, and the room carries them when their knees shake. Music changes captions, and captions change music. A chorus can teach the crowd a better inner line, and we see it take, like rain taking in a field. My city funds choirs for public spaces, which sounds like a luxury until you watch hard tempers loosen inside a song. I keep a small notebook for lines that surprised me, and I will copy a few for you. I wish to be wiser than my mood. Please do not mistake my silence for consent. I am not late, I am exactly as brave as I can be today. These are the little tunes of our streets, and we hum them without noise. You would ask about law, and I will keep it short. We record captions only with consent or in rare safety cases, and records are treated like blood, which means guarded and not taken without cause. Courtrooms allow thought to rise, but train the room to read without cruelty. Juries do not guess as much, and judges speak less because more is already seen. We say that justice here is a window opened by many careful hands. Of course we fail, and failure shows up like a shadow that makes the lines flicker. A scandal last year taught us to refuse quick stories even when the lines look loud. We learned to check context and to hold a person steady while we search for it. That is a good habit anywhere, I think. I must tell you a smaller story I have not told many. There is a friend I love whose caption once said, "I am not ready to be loved," and it stayed for months like a winter. I thought I could warm it with effort and jokes and patient acts, and I could not. Then one morning their line changed to, "I am trying," and that was the first day spring felt possible. We went for a walk and our lines crossed like birds, and we did not need to trap them in a label to feel the change. I learned to respect timing because captions make timing visible in a way that speech often hides. Another lesson is that control and care are not the same. The more I tried to shape my line for others, the flatter it became, and the less I was trusted. When I wrote for myself with kindness, the line gained depth and people leaned in. I wish I had known that when I was younger. Some nights I sit by the window and watch the city think. The lines drift and settle and rise again, like a tide that carries intentions back to shore. I imagine your city with its private tide inside each person, and I feel both awe and worry. I know secrecy can keep people safe, and can also keep people lonely. I do not know the perfect mix of light and dark. I do know that love needs both, the bright to be seen and the dark to rest. If you ever visit, we will start with a walk, not a museum. I will lend you a small veil until your eyes stop straining from so much reading in the air. We will buy plums and bread and drink cold water on the steps of the library. You will notice that your thoughts try to behave, and you will laugh at that, and I will laugh with you. You will see that people here trip and swear and forgive and forget, and you will see that the lines help but do not save. You may meet the violinist if the night is kind, and if his silence feels like a mirror, do not look away. I will take you to the comedy cellar, and you will hear a joke about the worst first date caption ever written. The punchline will be the truth, and it will be better than any lie we could craft. Before you sleep, we will stand in a veil garden so you can remember how to be unread, and my line will rest too. In the morning you will wake and find that the air has guessed some of your habits, and you will not mind as much as you feared. You will tell me what you miss about opacity, and I will tell you what I miss about surprise. We will trade small rituals like recipes, and we will keep some back because secrets should not go extinct. My letter is longer than a sensible letter, yet I want to end while your attention is glad to stay. The best letters leave a door not fully closed. I will set mine here. Your friend who lives in the world beside yours. Thank you for staying with my letter all the way to the last line. If you liked this, please tap like so the letter finds more neighbors. Please subscribe so we can keep writing across the small distance between our worlds. Leave a comment and tell me what your first caption might say in my city. If you want to support the channel, you can use the QR code in the lower right of the video, or the link in the description. The description also includes links to other works from a completely different series. I am grateful for your time, and I hope you will watch the next letter when it arrives.